we're not trying to be the cheapest. I'd much rather say yes to a claim and charge a little bit more and then, miss out on a little bit of business than be the cheapest and just say, well, we've got your money, but it's not covered, so no. From my point of view, we exist to help people.
Welcome to Cross-Examination with Jahan Kalantar, where perspectives collide and controversies arise. I am very excited to share my next guest with you. He is a brilliant man, a good friend of mine, and the honest and decent face of insurance. I would like to introduce you to Dean Van Ness. Welcome to my podcast, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Dean, when people think of insurance, they don't necessarily understand it. They only see sort of bad things and the boogeyman. Can you break down what is insurance? Why do people have it? And more particularly, we'll get into your story and the kind of insurance you do.
Yeah, sure. The way that I see it, insurance is the original social product. Like everyone puts a little bit of money in the middle in case someone gets injured or hurt or has a loss of some sort. And then our role as an insurance provider is to make sure that money goes to the right person at the right time.
That's an awesome answer. And when did you start your journey with insurance?
It was about 14 years ago.
Okay.
I was looking at what different insurance providers were doing online, and I just thought they weren't doing a great job. Like generally in the insurance industry, they're not innovators at all. And you get the pretty standard website with a white background and blue writing and a whole bunch of tables and way too many words. I'm like, I just thought I could do a better job. So we came with a very nice bright orange website. We sort of looked at all the words that are on there and was like, well, what do people actually really need to know? And we cut them down. Unfortunately, because of regulation, we've got to be more wordy than we want to be.
Yep.
But yeah, really, I just thought I could do a better job.
And you have. You've created Fast Cover, haven't you?
That's right, yeah.
And what does Fast Cover specialize in?
We do travel insurance for people going on holiday. So people going to Bali, people going for their 2-year holiday in Canada, working at ski resorts, people going on cruises. Like it's pretty much anyone going on a leisure holiday. Yeah. Well,
look, this is not a paid endorsement, but I have used your product. I'm blown away by how easy it is. It's like 6 clicks at the most, and I've got a product. I purchased it literally at the airport because I'd forgotten to do it properly. Is that like, do you get a lot of like people at the airport like, hey, I need to get this sorted?
Yeah, heaps.
What percentage?
We've had people call up in the line to get on the plane going, they won't let me on the plane unless I have a policy. I need one right now.
No way.
Yeah.
What country doesn't let you in unless you?
This was more in COVID times. Like they just wouldn't let people on the plane. So there was a lot of countries that mandated a certain level of cover for COVID.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And could you turn it around quickly?
Oh yeah, easy. Yeah.
That's now. You've looked at the technical side and you've kind of gone, okay, people are not doing insurance properly. How do we do this better? When people think insurance, they think big bastard corporation that likes to squeeze people and make absurd profits. Is that accurate?
No, not at all.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't say anything else, right? But
the media loves to pick on an insurance company
do.
Because no matter what we do, they're only interested in the bad stuff, right?
Yep.
So when insurance companies make a lot of money, they're like, oh, those insurance companies are bad for making a lot of money. But you want them to make a lot of money because on the other side, when there's a disaster, they need a lot of money to pay out claims.
Gotcha.
So that's actually really important. And then when there is a disaster, like they can never pay the claims fast enough. Or they're denying people who haven't read their policy or something like that.
You know what? I should actually show a bit more sympathy because criminal defense lawyers, we get the exact same thing. If we win a case, they used every trick in the book. How could they? And if they lose a case, this poor innocent lamb of God. There's some games you just can't win, right? And I think that the media game with your field is probably a bit like that.
Well, even that, if the media calls us for comment on a policy, we're not allowed to say anything.
Really?
Like, privacy laws say that we can't even acknowledge that a particular person has a policy with us. So we can't defend ourselves. If someone goes at us on social media, we can't say, no, that's not how it went. It went like this because privacy laws.
Wow.
So we just have to say, very sorry that happened. Please let us know who we are so we can try and fix the problem. And then when problems like that do come up, in our company, they usually make it to me and I give them a call. And I go, What have we done wrong? How can we fix it?
That's awesome.
I can't always fix it. Like there's just some things. One of the things I really hate about insurance is that sometimes we have to say no because whatever happened fell outside of the policy wording. And, you do your best to try and incorporate as much as possible in the policy wording, but at the same time, you've got to make a product that's affordable for people. So there's always that fine line. And the approach that we've taken, we're not trying to be the cheapest. I'd much rather say yes to a claim and charge a little bit more and then, miss out on a little bit of business than be the cheapest and just say, well, we've got your money, but it's not covered, so no. So
yeah,
like from my point of view, we exist to help people.
That's so refreshing. I love that.
Like that's why we're in business. And I tell that to my staff every time that we have a meeting. Like we have values. The first one is help first.
Yeah.
That's why we exist. And it all flows from there. And our core principles are fast and simple. So in fast, we want to make, we don't want to ask you too many questions. We don't want to waste your time. Everyone has had a purchase process where they've just made it harder than it needs to be. Like sometimes it's hard to give people your money and it's just, it blows me away. So we want to get out of people's way. We want to make it really easy because, for us, they're going on holiday. So people are happy and, they just want to go on the holiday. So we kind of try and connect with that and then make it simple. It's like you can explain something in 1,000 words that can be explained in one sentence sometimes.
Yeah. I'm good at that.
Yeah.
I'm really good at that.
Yes.
So fast, simple. I think that it sells newspapers and it makes a sexy byline to be like big bad insurance company screws over family and holiday. But what are some of the other sides of that? Like, tell me a little bit about, I imagine there's some pretty rewarding cases. Someone's taken out a policy, something really bad's happened, and you're able to kind of help them.
Yeah. Look, a recent one, it happened late last year. People were in Bolivia, middle of nowhere, on a bus on one of those steep hills. Bus goes off the cliff, rolls down. These people were quite seriously injured.
Oh, God.
And then we just mobilize the emergency team. So we have a team in Australia that deals with these cases, and they've got connections all over the world. And so we need to get them firstly to a safe place. And that can involve flying in a helicopter. It can involve getting some sort of remote rescue company to go in and get them to a hospital, get them stable. But then we've got to get them home. So in this particular situation, the quickest route home was via Chile, but Chile just changed their laws. So you need a visa to transit the country. So they would have had to wait a week for the visa. So then, okay, how can we do it? And then we've got the team to put together the different flights that they had to go on. So we routed these guys through Brazil, then to Dubai, and then back home. And because of the injuries, these people got upgraded to a business class fare just to make them a bit more comfortable. And that, while not super common, that happens a lot.
Wow.
People get themselves into some really strange situations when they travel.
I need to know more. Give me some other strange situations because that's delicious.
Look, most of these are pretty sad.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do you have one that's a bit funny? If not,
look, we had one a while back. We get this call into the call center. And it's like, do you cover rodeo riding? And we're like, no, absolutely not. We don't recover rodeo riding. So then we get this claim comes in. Apparently this guy was sitting in the bleachers at a rodeo somewhere in America, and the cows jumped over the hurdle, right, and broken his leg. And we're like, I wonder if those two are connected. And basically those barriers are made so people, the cows can't jump over.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. So that was an interesting one.
I mean, you must get so many liars and people who just make stuff up. How do you test that? Like if I'm in a country that doesn't keep good police reports and, you get this report about X, Y, and Z, how do you even test that?
Well, firstly, I would say that a percentage of every policy is attributed to fraud.
Okay.
So everybody is paying for this.
Got you.
Right?
So if people were honest, we'd pay less for insurance.
Absolutely. Like there is a significant percentage that goes to fraud.
Wow. I did not know that.
And we process a lot of claims.
Yep.
So we're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
So, whilst we probably don't pick up everything, I think we get most of it.
Gotcha.
because you can just see it. People put in documents, and sometimes it just looks a bit wrong. And then you dig a little deeper, you look at dates. A lot of people doctor documents, and or people put in claims with multiple insurance companies, and then we all speak. Have you had this claim? Yeah, we've got this one. Same documents. Okay, that's a pretty common one.
Yep.
Most of the fraud that we see is pretty unsophisticated, and we're like, what are you doing? But then there's some that are more sophisticated, some that come through that you find after the fact, but we report them to the police.
That's exactly right.
It's, do it if you want, but it's not going to go well for you if you get found out.
Well, it's a risk reward thing, right? And like the risk is so high because the insurance companies have due diligence. You guys are good at this. And it's funny because the ethos you're sharing with me makes so much sense. I'm trying to stop this fraud so I have more money to pay out claims that genuinely deserve it.
Exactly. Like you're stealing off the other people that have contributed to this pile of money to help people. Like that's essentially what it is. And people say, I bought this policy, it was a waste of money. I don't look at it like that. The money that you've paid, you've had a safe trip, no problem. You've helped someone. Like you've helped someone in probably the darkest day of their life.
Wow. No, you're right. I've never thought about it that way. If I don't utilize an insurance policy, that's great. The money gets to be used for someone else.
And it's not like a lot of people think, insurance companies make stacks of money, but it all comes down to how many claims we pay out. So everything's a fixed percentage. So if we're paying out a lot of claims, that's when prices go up. It's not just because we want more money. And inflation will dictate that, medical costs will dictate that. So it's all really relative to the costs.
Yeah.
Like everything, price is dictated by what we call loss ratio. So that's the amount of claims that we're paying. Most of the money that you pay for your insurance policy goes to paying claims.
Gotcha.
And then there's the bit that, basically keeps the lights on for us and allows us to provide excellent emergency care and a great service.
Well, I can't imagine it's cheap if you're in rural Bolivia and you need to get back to Australia. There's probably phone calls that need to be made, people to be discussed. I mean, how many people take like the wheel on a situation like that?
Like how many people would
that
bus in Bolivia, how many people would be involved?
How many people get involved in like an emergency situation to get someone back to Australia and safe?
Look, it could be up to 20.
20?
It really depends, whatever it takes, right? It's like our job is to get you back to Australia, to your family, safe and sound as soon as possible. Firstly, to get you healthy and safe and stable, and then to get you home as soon as possible.
Wow.
And there's a whole team that works behind the scenes to do that, from the emergency people local in Australia, and that's 24/7. So quite often we get calls in the middle of the night. It's like, we've got this person that's got themselves into a bad situation. They need immediate surgery. We need you to approve, a $60,000 operation, and we've got to make a decision right then to go ahead. And it's not just about the money. It's like, is that operation necessary?
Yeah.
Because in a lot of these third world countries, the operations aren't necessary, and they're just like, insurance is paying. Why don't we just do that extra treatment? Or the diagnosis is wrong. So we've got doctors we work with locally in Australia who give a second opinion and go, like, sometimes we just go, absolutely stop. And some hospitals have a bad reputation. So we have a list of good hospitals that we get people to, and everything is double checked. So that's another thing that you kind of take with you when you take a policy like ours.
That's wild. I never thought of it, but you're right. Maybe there's a perverse incentive for some of these people to be like, okay, cool, ka-ching, and then you end up with surgery you didn't need.
Oh, all the time. And another one.
This is a regular thing?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Look, in Australia, we're a little bit desensitized. We've got a very stable, ordered society.
Yeah.
Other parts of the world are not so much. It's the Wild West. There's a lot of bribes going on, and then there's a lot of sort of over-servicing, particularly when insurance companies are involved. They're like, let's get some more money out of this.
Gotcha.
And then people are getting medical procedures that are not required. Yeah.
That's full on.
Anything from just more tests and, invasive tests than are needed, to operations that are just not required. Whether it's an inexperienced doctor or just a scam. Yeah, it happens. So, we've got a team built up to look very closely at these things and to...
And so there's like specific hospitals that we know behave in this way.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah.
That is... And I would never think... You're right. I'm so desensitized, and I recall a story I had with a friend once. he was telling me that he went to a VIP ward in, I won't name the country, but it was a third world country, and it was just like an ordinary ward. And he asked the doctor, "What makes this VIP?" And he goes, "There's only one patient per bed."
Yeah, wow.
And it's just
Yeah.
like the world is so different. There's so many sort of different things and options. I guess it must be fascinating it must be really fascinating when you're learning about all of these different issues and challenges. How big is your team right now?
Our core team is 35 people, and then our emergency assistance provider has another 10 people. And then from there, we connect into whatever resources are required. There's some very specialist stuffs that we don't really need to have on site that, is only required occasionally. And we just, we have a team of professionals on call when we need them.
You mentioned earlier something that was quite impressive to me. So if you have an irate customer or someone who's unhappy, you will personally call them?
Yeah.
Wow. That level of service is pretty rare.
Well, I feel like we work really hard to do a great job. And if that's gone wrong for someone, I want to understand why.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'll give them a call. And most of the time it's just listening. Like, people don't get listened to much these days. Someone just wants to jump in and they want to tell them how it's going to be. And it's like, I just call them up and I listen. And once they've told me everything and really been heard, it's like, well, I'll tell them what I can do. And I can't always do exactly what they want, but I'll do what I can.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
This ethos of helping and using insurance as a product to help, it must be more inbuilt into the system than we recognize from the outside. I imagine, did many of your cohorts share this viewpoint?
Look, it's hard to tell. I think some definitely do. I think generally most companies do a reasonably good job. Where I see it going wrong is when they become institutionalized and more corporate, and no one really cares. They're people just running a company. And those ones, I don't think people get treated as well as they should. As an example, like call your bank.
Yep.
Is that a good experience?
Never.
It's never a good experience ever. You might speak to someone who really tries to help you, but just to get to them is hard. And then their hands are tied because they can't solve the problem for you. So in building bus cover, I've really tried to make, when you speak to someone, it's one person and they should be able to make the decision. There are things that, go outside of that, but we do our best just to be like good citizens.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. I always put myself in the shoes of the customer and go, what would be a good experience? And sort of build through from there. Whereas what I've seen in corporates, they're the other way. It's like, all right, we've got all these compliance things we've got to tick. And, we can only go this far for a customer and then it's just tough luck because that's what the policy says. And it's like, I don't think that's the right way to treat people. And if you treat people well, that just comes back. They'll tell their friends. It just works. I think
it's true. Like I said, I used a number of different providers until we met, and then I was just like, it's a good site. It's easy to use. I've never had any difficulties. Knock on wood, I've never needed to call upon the policy, but I see it much the same way that you do. I don't see it I now see it in the sense of how good is that? I'm helping someone on their darkest day. That's really cool. But I've always seen it as, thank God I didn't need this policy. This is fantastic. It means I had a safe trip. Me and my loved ones weren't injured and weren't hurt. And do you think everyone should get travel insurance when they travel?
100%, yes.
Yeah.
Of course I'm going to say that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll say this as well. Like, if you really want to be that person who doesn't have travel insurance, who thinks they're okay, it's like, all right, if you go to the United States, just get travel insurance there, because that is the most expensive place in the world. If something goes wrong, you break your arm, it could be $20,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's our biggest cost, United States medical. It's like, in some cases, for the same procedure in another part of the world, it's 10 times the cost.
10?
Yeah. 10. Seriously. I don't know the exact numbers, but I heard a stat a little while ago, like an MRI in a GE machine in the United States versus an MRI in the same machine in Ireland. There was like a 10 times difference in cost. Same machine, same MRI. Yeah.
The US does things bigger. They're just wild. It is that's, I think medical bankruptcy is one of the number one causes of bankruptcy in the US. Like, it's pretty weird that someone gets sick and then, sorry, you lose everything you've worked for 40, 50 years.
Yeah, look, it's not uncommon for us to pay a $100,000 claim out of the US.
Wow.
And usually they're really serious or at that level, but that's the sort of level that you're talking to. And the biggest one we've had is well into the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Really?
Yeah.
Shoo. Poor person. I mean,
yeah, they got into a bad situation. I can't really give a lot of detail because it's still ongoing, but
it wouldn't have been pleasant if you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, intensive care in the United States, right? You can imagine a per day hospital rate on that, and yeah.
Does it take an emotional toll on you?
Look, I don't like to say no.
Yep.
And if we kind of do the pub test on a lot of claims, it's like sometimes like, is it the right thing to pay this claim?
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll pay a claim we don't have to, but it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
And we have a fund set up especially for that purpose.
Where it kind of fits out a little bit outside the policy, but we want to help this person?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I said, the pub test. If you were talking about it in the pub, it's like, what would be the right thing to do here? Yeah.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
I guess the emotional toll comes when we're misunderstood, right? When someone just gets on the phone and just wants to tell you out of ignorance how bad you are. It's like, if you really knew what was going on here, if your $1,000 laptop that you left in the taxi is so important versus I've just been off the phone to the medical provider because we're trying to get this person back from a remote part of the world and we've just saved their lives. It's like, where should I put my time? Listening to that person who, like, some people are just, I don't get it. They kind of flick into this entitled, we're the bad guy. So that takes a bit of emotional toll because they don't see what we do, and it's usually over a material item. Like, really, my point of view is the one thing that you must have in travel insurance is the medical.
Yep.
If you miss your flights, you're not going to die.
Yep.
If you lose your luggage, that's fine. You can buy more luggage. But if you get injured, you need help, and you need it quick. You need to go to you need the right help, and you need someone like us to guide you through that because you don't know where to go. I mean, which hospital are you going to go to in Bangladesh?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And do you find that there tends to be a difference in the way that people behave when it's a material item versus it's their physical health?
Yeah.
Who behaves better?
Oh, physical health.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, they're really humble because they've been humbled and they get that it's very serious. And yeah, we do our best for both. But, a physical item is just that. It's not life-threatening. It's going to be okay. But we cop a lot more stick over that because, strangely enough, every time a new iPhone gets released, the iPhone claims go up quite significantly.
And what a coincidence.
Yeah, people just happen to lose their iPhones. And then if we push back a little bit on that, people get a bit upset. Yeah. It's like, well, we see the broader picture here. We need to double check this because this is the thing that we see in our statistics.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what? I feel kind of like a jerk for poking the insurance companies. It sounds like, I think that you're right. I think the corporates have painted everyone with the same brush, and because insurance isn't just, it's like every bank is not the same, right? There are banks that are better and there are banks that are worse. And I'm sure it's the same with insurance. Just because it's a financial product, just because to me, in the outside world, it looks the same, doesn't mean the experience I'll have is the same.
Yeah.
Would you say that insurance is an interesting? You've picked it, you've enjoyed it. Would you say insurance is something interesting for a young person to get into?
Yeah, I would actually. It's quite interesting. If your intersection of interest sort of is someone on the numbers side, but also on the legal side, I think it's probably a good thing. Because insurance is very statistics and numbers driven, but also you've got the policy wording, which basically has to make the numbers work. So that intersection is quite interesting. It's quite deep and broad, like me personally, I don't really consider myself an insurance guy.
Okay.
I like building things, and I like to share what I've built with the world, and I want to give them a good experience. But I've worked in insurance now for 14 years, and I know it quite well.
Well, I mean, your background was a tech guy. You've always
Yeah.
been you've always been a guy who's like obsessed with tech.
Yeah,
And you just, I guess, you went into insurance tech or fintech.
yeah, yeah.
I would, if I understand the way insurance works, so there's essentially you sell the policy and then you sell part of that risk to someone else. Is that how it works, or am I misunderstanding? What's a reinsurer? And
Okay, there's a couple of questions in
okay,
there. So basically, you've got the underwriter
okay,
and the insurer. Usually, they're the same person, and they take the risk. And then you have a distributor, which is someone like us. So we'll write the product. We'll go to an underwriter and we go, hey, this is what we want to sell to people. And they go, okay, yeah, we're happy to back that one. And the underwriter complies with all the government laws and makes sure there's always enough money there to pay out any claim. So that's their responsibility. And then it comes to someone like us to make sure that we've created a really good product for people, and we work with the underwriter to price it in a certain way, and then we go ahead and market and service the product. So we take all the sales calls, we build the product wording, we do all the IT, we process all the claims, and but we work very closely with the underwriter. And particularly if there's one of those claims that there's a grey area, it's like we'll go to the underwriter and say, hey, we think this one should be paid. What do you think? And we'll have a discussion.
got you. So they're very bad analogy, but they're the power station, you're the power lines.
Yeah, that's a bad analogy. Yeah.
Do you have a better one?
Well, if we use that analogy,
They're the wheat, you're the cart that takes the
they're
wheat.
the one that actually takes the end risk, right?
Okay.
So they've got to have the financial capacity to pay any claim
Yep.
that might come through. And we work very closely with them, but we create the product. And we explain the product to people, and we administer the product to make sure that.
Why didn't I go mortgages and mortgage brokers?
See, I don't see us as just a broker, because we're not just taking a clip and going, we don't care anymore. Like, we actually service the whole thing.
Got you. You just
It's
don't
really,
bear the risk.
We need an underwriter, because they need to have an underwriter will have a large sum of money in a very safe, on deposit in a very safe place. That's kind of the backstop. So us smaller companies, we need someone like that to be there. That's a pretty common scenario. Yeah.
Is it possible for the underwriter to also be the distributor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Allianz would be an example of that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they do the whole thing. Now, reinsurance. So that's something that an underwriter would probably take. So they would go, okay, so Fast Cover's written all this business, and we want to spread some of that risk. So they'll go into another insurer and go, hey, do you want to buy some of this risk? Or can we sell you some of this risk? So it's spread. So insurance only works on large numbers, and it only works when the risk is spread out across a lot of people. So underwriters, they might have a whole lot of travel on their, what they call the book. Then they might have some motor. They might have some home insurance. They might have some business insurance. And then the thing is, at any one time, there won't be a large loss in all of them. There might be a large loss in one of them, and that's kind of offset by the other ones. So it's very much a case of the bigger the numbers, the better, and to really spread the risk. So that's what makes insurance work, because essentially it's gambling.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gambling with
something-
statistics. Yeah.
It's gambling something bad won't happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Why did you pick travel insurance?
Honestly, I just thought I could do a better job. I remember the day I was looking around. I think I'd just been on a trip and looked at some of the competitors and what's this? I can do better than this. And I knew that I could go and build the insurance engine. I knew I could build up the website. I knew I could sell. I thought, well, it's a big market. If I can sell one policy, I can probably sell two. And if I can sell two, I can probably sell four. And
That's
so forth.
brave, man. You did, because insurance wasn't your bag, right? You were a tech guy.
Yeah. I've always sort of had businesses and worked in business, and I like building things. And I thought, I'd love to say I did a really careful analysis, and looked at all the pros and cons and decided this was the one. But for me, it was more of a gut feel. And I remember writing it on a Post-it note, stick it on my computer. And then literally an hour later, I pull it off and I started making calls. I needed a product to sell. And I managed to talk. Our initial underwriter was Allianz, and Yeah, I said the right things and they backed us to start with, and
Wow.
off we went. And look, I think as a business lesson, it's all persistence. The most persistent guy wins. You know, if you get a no, you've got to try and turn it into a yes. I love a no. It's like, give me no. All right,
Yeah.
cool. And you would too, right?
Oh, I live
Yeah,
for it.
yeah.
I live. One of my favorite phrases is persistence gets it, consistency keeps it.
Yeah,
And I love a no. I love a no. I
Yeah.
mean, I live for no's. There's something quite beautiful about coming head on with a problem, and then everyone thinks it's unsolvable, and you just know that it is, and you keep trying little permutations and combinations, and because of a unique gift or gifts that you have versus the world, you build something really cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that's what keeps me going. I like building things. I like improving things. And for me, one of my core values is just to be good to people, you know, like to treat people well. And that's what I'm trying to do with the company.
That's
and
awesome.
I think we're mostly succeeding. Yeah.
Well, 100%. I mean, it's the one of the things that I didn't know, and now you say it's so obvious, is that of course you can't disclose whether someone holds or doesn't hold a policy. So you just have to sit there as this person slanders you, and you can't do anything. You can't be like, hey, look, sure, we denied the claim, but here's proof that they're fraudulently doing these invoices. Here's evidence that they've doctored this document. Here's proof that they're drunk. You can't say any of that. You just have to cop it.
Yep. No, exactly. We've had people from TV stations call up, and they know that we can't say anything, and they'll just keep trying to get, you know, they'll try and call someone in the call center team and see if they can, you know, get a crack. But we're not allowed to defend ourselves unless the insured does a public release and signs off, and then we can. And, you know, no one's ever going to do that,
right.
because then the truth will come out.
That's right. If
Yeah.
I was committing fraud, I always say this, in particular in defamation cases: if you have done what they say you've done, don't launch a defamation action. Simply say, I won't dignify this with a response, and just move on with your life. Otherwise, you end up like a certain alleged war criminal and a certain prince of the realm.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, in those situations, the less communication, the better.
yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes I'm on the other end of the phone. It's like, I would love to tell you the story.
Oh man, that must be
I
hard.
would love to, you know.
That must
But-
be hard.
We can't. Yeah.
I
We'd be breaking the law if we did.
has the regulations in your industry changed substantially since you've been since you've been there? Yep. Tougher
Yes.
or easier?
Much harder.
Okay.
Particularly, there was a Royal Commission, I think, just before COVID, and that really changed things.
Yep.
And the thing is, these regulations are meant to help the consumer, but they don't.
Would you believe we had someone else, the guest right before you said the exact same thing, completely different industry. He
Yeah.
said that basically, and I don't know if it's the same in yours, but he basically said these regulations are so good at punishing everyone that the bad actors who it's intended to stop, they're going to continue to do whatever the hell they want to do. But me, a small business owner who's doing the right thing, I'm being like a wet blanket on top of me.
Yeah. I've got 2 full-time staff to manage the regulations to make sure we're doing the right thing.
Wow.
Yeah. One is a trained lawyer,
Yep.
and the other one has been in insurance for 20 years and worked in regulations. Like, there's just so much that we have to comply with. So there's a massive burden on us, which, you know, makes sure that we're doing the right thing for consumers. But the things that make it to the consumer side, it's just the way that they fix things by adding more words.
Yeah.
People don't read. These days, if it's not, you know, if it's not a 15-second TikTok, not interested, right? And it's not funny, definitely not interested. You know, just dry insurance doesn't work. And, you know, one of the big changes, they brought out this thing called a TMD, right?
What's the TMD?
This is a target market determination. So when you go and buy your insurance policy, you should read that 10-page document first, just so you're informed before you buy that policy. That was for the consumer. It's ridiculous. It's too much. And we have to maintain this thing now that the only person that reads it is the regulator to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
Wow.
But it's something that we have to publish. So we have to give the consumer a product disclosure statement, which is very important. They should read that. A financial services statement, which basically duplicates a lot of stuff in the product disclosure statement, and target market determination. If you put all those together, that's about 100 pages to read. It's ridiculous. It's too much. It needs to be cut down.
And would it be in legalese, complicated to decipher?
We've taken the decision to make it easier, but at the cost of more words.
Yep.
So when you read our stuff, yeah, it's a bit longer, but we've gone, can that be understood? Is it not, we don't want legalese. We've tried to write it in more common language, and I think we've mostly succeeded, but that means more words.
Okay, so hypothetically, I'm about to go on a holiday, and I'm going to buy some cover from you, and I get the product disclosure statement. What should I be reading so that I'm informed of what this policy actually covers, so I don't get caught with an exemption or
So I would say most people that have no special medical conditions, that are not going on any tricky holidays, there's not what I would say would be gotchas.
Okay.
The things where we see people going wrong is unattended luggage. So people will go to the beach, they'll leave their stuff on the sand, they'll go for a swim, they'll come back and it'll be stolen. Now, we and as far as I know, no other of our competitors will pay that, because you basically just left your luggage in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an important one. That's where a lot of people don't understand. And then the other thing, if you've got a medical condition, you need to declare it.
Yep.
Mostly you'll get cover for it, but it does put the risk up for us, and it might be a little bit more expensive, but then you're completely covered for it. Then if you're doing a bit of a complicated trip, and maybe you're doing
Define complicated.
Yeah, so more of the adventure stuff. If you're riding motorbikes,
Yep.
make sure you've got cover for motorcycle riding. Make sure our policies require you to have a motorcycle license, because if you look at it from our point of view, you don't have a motorcycle license, it means you've never ridden a motorcycle or hardly ever ridden a motorcycle in Australia. You go to Bali, you're like, great, I'm getting on a motorcycle. Or even worse, maybe a country where they ride on the other side of the road. It's like, we're not comfortable, and most insurers wouldn't be comfortable covering you for that. You probably shouldn't be doing that, because it's unfamiliar, and there's a lot of motorcycle accidents, unfortunately, that we have to clean up.
Would that be a big part of your portfolio, motorcycle accidents? Because they can be quite catastrophic.
It makes up a reasonable size of the claims. Well, I mean, they're not huge, but when they happen, they're just, like people are on the motorcycle with thongs and shorts. And when you go down, while they're generally not fatal, they can be. People break bones, they scrape skin, they're not good. So, but to get back to the question, if you'd like altitude hiking, you just want to make sure that you're getting the right policy. If you're going to Everest Base Camp, most policies won't cover that unless you take an extension.
To the base camp?
Yeah, to the base camp, because you're going up to a fairly high altitude, which adds risk and complications. We've had to helicopter people out of there, so that happens.
So you rescue people from Everest?
Yeah,
that's the
base
coolest.
Camp. Yeah.
Mate, that I would. Why is that not on your front page? We rescue people from Everest. That's the coolest thing I've ever heard.
Some people get really nasty altitude sickness and can't move, so they need to be rescued.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so unattended luggage, special exemptions, make sure that you tell them. Anything else that we should really know?
Like travel insurance is for going on a fairly safe holiday, right? If you're going to go base jumping, if you're going to do something crazy like that, if you're going to do, like mountaineering, most general leisure policies won't cover you for that. If you're going deep sea diving, like extra deep, just double check that what you're going to do is covered. Like you will likely find a policy to cover most things. It's just you just need to make sure. But if you're going to Bali, you're going to hang out in a resort, no worries.
Huh. What about people who are putting themselves in? What about people who are going to countries that are somewhat more high risk? I imagine robbery, theft, those things would be covered.
Yeah.
What about if you have a special item? Let's say the one that my wife and I always argue about is the engagement ring. I've got a special cover for that specific item.
Yep.
Is that something you would recommend?
We don't cover engagement rings. Most companies wouldn't cover engagement rings, because you think about it, you've got, a $10,000, $20,000 ring and you're going somewhere really dodgy. Like,
don't take the ring, yeah.
Would you put $20,000 in your pocket and walk around with it? It's like, well...
Hannah, watch this video and listen to what my friend Dean says. I call it the Sultan's ransom, my wife's ring, in case we need to buy back a sultan or start a space program.
Yeah.
Fund a small war. We've got the resources behind us. But it's yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like think about it. Like we could cover everything, then we'd have to charge a stupid amount of money. We could cover getting drunk, but then we'd have to charge a ridiculous amount of money. So it's really for us, it's a balance because people want to pay as little as possible and have the most cover. We feel like we've struck a pretty good balance with these things.
How long? And you I guess you're tweaking your product constantly, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, constantly. Yeah, things come up like we need to, that piece of the wording was a little bit confusing. How can we make that clearer? Or it's like, that thing should be covered, but we've not really specified it anywhere, so we'll make an adjustment. Yeah.
Gotcha. Is there a policy one can get? Like, let's say I travel frequently. I'm always going to be on the road. Can I just say, hey, can I just pay for travel cover for my year? Here's money. Is that a thing?
Yeah. It's just called an annual multi-trip policy.
Okay.
You just need to specify the length of your individual trips. Let's say say 3 weeks would be your max length, and you can do as many of those as you want, as long as you come back to Australia in between.
Okay, wow. So annual multi-trip. Is there any other kind of products that most people may not be familiar with, but would be? Because I do heaps of trips annually.
Yeah.
I go to the States like twice. I've got to be in Dubai and a few other places. That's a really cool product that I didn't know existed.
Yeah, no, that's a common one, very easy to buy. Most people aren't traveling that often. We see people travel internationally maybe every 18 months to 2 years.
Yep.
So a single trip policy is more efficient for them.
Do you do any domestic insurance?
Yeah, we do domestic as well. That's more cancellation. So domestic insurance is not medical insurance because we have good healthcare in this country. So that's really cancellation. So if you've booked some cruise over in Western Australia and they can be quite expensive, you might buy a domestic policy to cover that. Yeah. In the event that you got sick or had a family emergency before you were due to travel.
So with cancellation, because I kind of understand how it works with cars, but with, let's say, cancellation, the cruise liner cancels the trip. You pay the person and then you chase the cruise liner for the money?
No.
Okay.
If the cruise liner cancels a trip, they're going to refund. Well, they should refund.
Yeah.
The cancellation is more like, okay, so I've booked my big cruise over to Fiji or whatever. I've got sick and I can't go.
Okay.
Or there's been a family emergency and I just cannot go on this trip. That's basically the two most common scenarios for cancellation, but there's a few others that come up from time to time.
What do you think the future of your industry is? I mean, you've done a really good job of making it faster, making it smarter. What do you think? What do you think that the cutting edge is?
For us, it's like communicating the right thing to the right person at the right time. So if you're a senior going on a cruise, there's certain things that you want to that are important to you in a policy that are not important to someone going to Bali for 2 weeks in their 20s. So for us, it's like making sure we're communicating the right message, making sure we've got a long PDS. It's like, how do we pick out the wording that's most relevant for them based on what we know that they're going to want to understand, to buy the policy and getting that to them at the right time. So yeah, just making sure people understand what they buy so there's no surprises.
It's just, it's so funny. You've described, like for us, whenever we have a new client, we have to give them a cost disclosure, we have to do various things. You hand them this huge document with all of these different clauses. And fundamentally at the end of it, I go, hey, this big document, read it, understand it. But the 4 things you need to know are, it's going to cost this much. We're going to quote on this date. This is the expertise. This is the person helping you. And I think you've nailed it in that must be so different for the senior on the cruise versus the 20-year-old. The 20-year-old wants to know, hey, if you're going to drink and get on a motorbike, we're not covering you. Be careful. If you're going to leave your sunglasses at a nightclub, you're not going to get them back.
Yeah.
Whereas the senior would probably be like, hey, you've got to let us know about your heart murmur and ethos pills.
Exactly. You're bringing the sleep apnea machine, just list that on the policy, and if anything happens to it, we'll get you a new one.
Really? Oh, yeah. They're expensive, eh?
Yeah, they're super expensive. Yeah.
And do you what is for? I guess it's the amount you pay, right? The more you pay, the more you're covered.
Yeah, effectively. We've got 3 levels of cover. The very bottom level is medical only. That's the one that everyone, I think, really must have. That's the most important one. And then we've got the top level is comprehensive, which is everything that we can do.
Yeah.
I hope people always would take comprehensive, because that's when we have to say no the least amount of times. Because we get people that will buy the medical only product and then they want to claim for luggage or they want to claim for cancellation. They'll be disappointed that they didn't pay the extra $20 or $30. It's like, well, that's the one you chose. And the kind of market dictates we need a low price. So that's why we created that one. And some people literally only want medical, and that's totally fine. That's a product for them.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, your site does such a good job of explaining, this covers this covers that. Like, I don't know how anyone could say I didn't know. Like, I really, there's icons. It's so easy to understand. And I guess it must be frustrating when somebody comes and says, well, why won't you cover this, and this? You agree to insurance company. Like, well, yeah, you were drunk. You didn't buy the right policy. You left, there's no evidence, and you sent me these doctored receipts, mate. That's why.
Yeah.
What kind of turnaround do you guys have from claim to payout, assuming it's legit?
Look, as fast as we can do it. If it's legit, they go through very quick.
Yeah, wow.
And most are legit. Like probably 80% at least are legit. Some of them we go, we need to double check. Simple claims get paid very quick. The industry has this principle of 10 business days. I think that's ridiculous. We try to do it a lot faster.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we're fast cover. We're not slow, and
fast cover takes 15 days.
Some claims do take longer. Some claims we don't get enough information, and you have to chase people down, and they don't want to. They're hard to contact sometimes. But yeah, look, I want to see people get paid as fast as they can.
Dean, if people wanted to know more about you, Fast Cover, where can they get more information from you?
You can go to our website, fastcover.com.au.
And I am very excited to see what you continue to do. And I like unpaid endorsement, but as a happy, satisfied customer, Fast Cover is awesome. So this has been Cross-Examination with Jahan Kalantar with Dean Van Ness from Fast Cover. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Jahan.